In 1850, a broken plow didn't go to a store. A snap chain didn't get replaced. A cracked pot didn't get thrown away. They went to the blacksmith. One man with a forge, an anvil, and a hammer who could fix anything made of iron and build anything a farm needed from a bar of raw metal. These are 15 things only he could do. Subscribe before we start. Number 15. Number 15, nail making. Before factory nails, every nail in a barn, a fence, a farmhouse, and a coffin was made by hand. The blacksmith started with nail rod, a long, thin bar of iron about a 1/4 inch square. He heated the end in the forge, tapered it on the anvil with 4 quick blows, cut it off with a hardy, dropped the tapered piece into a heading tool, and flattened the top into a head with 1 strike. A skilled blacksmith could make 300 nails in a day. Everyone was slightly different, which is how you can tell hand-forged nails from machine-cut nails in old buildings today. Number 14, plow point sharpening. A plow cuts soil the way a knife cuts leather. When the edge wears round, it stops cutting and starts dragging. A farmer brought his worn plowshare to the blacksmith, who heated the cutting edge in the forge and drew it out on the anvil, hammering the worn metal thinner and longer and sharper. The process is called drawing out. A plowshare could be drawn out and resharpened 3 or 4 times before the metal was too thin to hold an edge and the whole share needed replacing. Spring plowing in America started at the blacksmith shop. Number 13, chain link welding. A broken chain meant a loose animal, a stalled wagon, or a log that couldn't be hauled. The blacksmith heated the broken link white hot, hammered the ends to a taper called a scarf, overlapped them, and forge welded the joint shut with 2 blows. The weld had to be clean. Any slag or scale trapped in the joint weakened the link, and a weak link under a team of horses pulling a load of timber was a failure that could kill. A good blacksmith's chain welds held for decades. Number 12, knife forging from a worn file. Old mill files were made from high carbon steel, the same grade used in knife blades. When a file wore smooth and couldn't cut metal anymore, the blacksmith heated it in the forge, hammered it flat, shaped the blade profile, and ground the cutting edge. The file teeth disappeared under the hammer. What came out was a farm knife that held an edge better than anything a general store sold because the steel was better. A knife forged from a worn file cost a farmer nothing but the blacksmith's time. The file was already paid for. Number 11, wagon tire setting. The iron tire on a wooden wagon wheel is not bolted on, it is not screwed on, it is shrunk on. The blacksmith measured the circumference of the wooden wheel, then forged an iron ring slightly smaller than the wheel. He heated the ring in a large fire built on the ground until the metal expanded enough to slip over the rim. The moment the tire was in place, the crew quenched it with buckets of water. As the iron cooled, it contracted, pulling the felloes, spokes, and hub together into a single compressed unit. The shrinking metal squeezed every joint tighter than any glue or fastener could hold. The entire operation happened outdoors. The wheel was laid flat. The hot ring had to go on and get quenched in under a minute because the iron was scorching the wood the entire time it sat on the rim. Too slow and the wheel burned. Too much water in the wrong place and the tire cracked from thermal shock. One chance to get it right. Number 10, horse and mule shoeing. A blacksmith didn't nail a factory shoe onto a hoof. He built a shoe for that specific hoof, then nailed it on. He started with a straight bar of iron, heated it, and bent it into a U that matched the outline of the animal's foot. He punched nail holes through the hot metal, shaped the ground surface flat, and worked a slight concavity into the hoof side so the shoe wouldn't press on the sole. The nails went through the insensitive wall of the hoof, which is made of keratin, the same material as a human fingernail. The tips were clinched over on the outside to lock the shoe in place. A working farm horse needed new shoes every 6 to 8 weeks. The blacksmith knew every hoof in town. Number 9, scythe peening. A scythe blade is not sharpened by grinding, it is sharpened by peening. The blacksmith laid the blade edge up across a small anvil called a peening anvil and tapped the cutting edge with a light hammer, working from one end to the other. Each tap pushed the metal sideways, drawing the edge thinner and sharper without removing any material. Grinding takes metal away. Peening moves it. A peened edge lasted longer than a ground edge because the hammer blows compressed and work hardened the steel. A farmer could touch up the edge in the field with a whetstone, but when the blade needed a full repeening, it went back to the smith. And this is the job that separated a blacksmith from a man with a hammer. Number 8, gate hinge forging. A barn gate hinge had to carry 300 pounds of oak planking and swing freely for years without sagging, binding, or rusting shut. The blacksmith forged it from a single bar of iron. He drew out one end into a long flat strap with screw holes for mounting to the gate. He upset the other end, thickened the metal, then punched and drifted a round eye that would ride on a pintle driven into the barn post. One piece of iron. No wells, no bolts, no fasteners except the mounting screws. The strap distributed the gate's weight across 2 feet of wood. The eye rode the pintle with just enough clearance to swing. A man could open a 300-pound barn gate with one hand because the blacksmith built all the engineering into a single bar of iron. The same man who made nails at 300 a day spent a full hour on one gate hinge. The nail was quantity. The hinge was craft. Both came from the same forge, the same anvil, and the same pair of hands. Number 7, axe eye drifting. The hole in the head of an axe is called the eye. The blacksmith made it by punching through a solid bar of hot steel with a tapered tool called a drift. Each pass through the metal stretched the eye wider and shaped it into an oval. The oval is what locks the head onto a hickory handle. A round eye would let the head spin. An oval eye, wider at the top than the bottom, grips the handle tighter with every strike because the impact drives the head down onto the widening wood. The geometry that keeps an axe from flying off the handle was forged with a punch, a drift, and nothing else. Number 6, single tree and double tree ironwork. A single tree is a wooden crossbar that connects a single horse to a plow or a wagon through a set of iron hardware. A double tree connects 2. Every hook, ring, clevis, and swivel on these assemblies was forged by the blacksmith. The center ring had to pivot freely so the pull stayed balanced. The end hooks had to hold a draft horse at full pull without opening. The clevises had to accept a pin and release cleanly when the farmer unhitched. None of these parts were interchangeable. Every set was forged to fit the specific tree it belonged to because every farmer's double tree was a slightly different width and thickness. Number 5, fire welding. 2 pieces of iron joined into one. No filler rod, no electricity, no gas. The blacksmith heated both pieces in the forge until they reached welding temperature, a bright yellow-white heat that most people have never seen iron reach. He sprinkled borax flux on the joint to dissolve the surface scale, pulled both pieces from the fire, laid one on top of the other, and struck. The first blow pushed the molten surfaces together. The second and third worked the joint smooth. If the temperature was right and the flux was clean, the 2 pieces became one. Not joined, not fastened. One continuous piece of iron where there used to be 2. This was the blacksmith's most important skill, and the one that took the longest to learn. Everything else on this list could be taught in weeks. Fire welding took years because the smith had to read the color of the iron inside the forge and know the exact second to strike. A moment too late and the metal burned, a few degrees too cool and the weld crumbled under the first load. Number 4, tool tempering. Raw steel from the forge is either too soft to hold an edge or too hard and brittle to survive a blow. The blacksmith controlled the hardness by tempering. He heated a cutting edge to cherry red, quenched it in water to make it glass hard, then polished the surface bright. He set the tool near the fire and watched the oxide colors creep along the polished steel as it slowly reheated. Pale straw appeared first, then dark straw, then brown, then purple, then blue. Each color marked an exact temperature and an exact hardness. The blacksmith pulled the tool from the heat at the color he needed. Straw for a razor, brown for an axe, blue for a spring. He read color the way a musician reads pitch, and it was the most precise work in the shop, performed without a single instrument. Number 3, sled runner bending. A farm sled hauled timber, stones, and feed across snow and frozen ground. The runners were flat iron bars, about 2 inches wide and a 1/4 inch thick, bent into a smooth upward curve at the front so they wouldn't dig in. The blacksmith heated the front section in the forge, pulled it out, and swept it over the horn of the anvil in one continuous motion. The curve had to be smooth. A flat spot in the bend caught on every bump and froze the sled in place. 2 runners matched to the same curve bolted to a wooden frame. A work sled on iron runners could haul a ton of green timber across a frozen field. Number 2, cast iron repair. Cast iron can't be forge welded. The carbon content is too high. Strike a piece of cast iron at welding heat and it shatters. But cast iron was everywhere on a farm. Cook pots, stove plates, plow frames, kettle lugs. When a piece cracked, the blacksmith drilled small holes on each side of the crack, forged tiny iron staples, and drove them across the break with the staple legs seated in the holes. As he peened the ends over, the staples pulled the crack closed and locked it shut. The technique was called stitching, and a smith who could stitch a cracked pot was saving a family from spending money they didn't have. A stitched pot wasn't pretty. It held water. That was enough. Number 1, wagon wheel assembly, the most complex job in the shop. A wooden wheel arrived from the wheelwright with the hub, spokes, and felloes assembled but loose. The blacksmith's job was to bind the entire structure into a permanent unit with iron. He started with the hub bands. Iron rings shrunk onto each end of the hub to keep it from splitting under the axle. Then the felloe plates, small iron straps bolted across each joint where 2 felloe sections met, holding the curved rim together. Then the tire, the iron ring that held everything in compression, set using the same shrink-fit technique from number 11. Every piece of iron was measured, forged, fitted, and installed in sequence. The hub bands went on first because once the tire was shrunk on, nothing could be adjusted. The tire setting happened last, and it happened fast. The same fire, the same water, the same 60-second window between expansion and contraction. When the water hit the hot iron and the tire shrank tight, the blacksmith listened. A clean ring meant every joint was seated. A dull thud meant something had shifted, and the wheel might need to come apart and start over. 1 wheel, 1 chance. Every skill on this list combined into a single operation that lasted under 2 minutes from fire to water. This was the job that made a blacksmith a blacksmith. Every one of these 15 skills disappeared when factories started stamping nails by the million, when plows came with bolt-on replaceable points, when electric arc welders replaced the forge, and when rubber tires replaced iron. The village blacksmith didn't go out of business because he did poor work. He went out of business because the world stopped needing work done, one piece at a time, by one man, with fire and a hammer. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and watch the next video above.